Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for coming to our annual members meeting. We're doing it slightly differently this year. We're meeting in Bexley, we're meeting in Greenwich, and we're meeting in Bromley. So firstly, I want to thank the team that set this room up in absolute record time, and I've got to do it twice more throughout the rest of the day. So thank you very much for a spectacular effort for that. And thank you so much for coming. We're going to present our annual report. You're going to hear about how the finances are going, and there'll be a chance for question and answers at the end. And then there'll be a chance for you to join in as we discuss our strategy going forward over the next few years. And it's really important, I think, if we hear from you, because we've had our strategies run for a little while now. There's been some successes, some challenges, and now it's how we look forward over the next few years to see what are we going to do as Oxleas in a very, very challenging environment, which is challenging for everyone in the public sector, but particularly so in the NHS. I'm going to be leaving Oxleas in the new year. I'll have completed eight odd years at Oxleas as chair. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time at Oxleas. It's been a wonderful organisation to work with, and I'm so proud of the achievements of the team, I think, over some very, very challenging times. And thank you all for everything you've done, and the support from the Council of Governors and from our members as well. Not without challenge, as it should be, because that's part of our governance. But I want to thank you all for that. But my reason for going a little bit earlier is because of that new strategy. I would think it's only right for a new chair to be part of the development of that new strategy. And also, with some of our non-exec directors are leaving as well this year, and into next year. But I think it's only right that the new chair is part of that selection process as we look forward to the future. The decision, of course, for who becomes the new chair and the new non-execs is very much with Sue Sauter, the Council of Governors, and there will be a selection process for those posts in due course. So that's enough for an opening. Where's Iffy? I'm going to hand over to Iffy. Over to you. Thank you.
So I want to be breaking out into a song. Andy, thank you so much for your announcement about your plans. We'll obviously give you a proper send-off next year, but I just want to use this opportunity to say thank you. 8 years of leadership of the board, we've achieved much, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you again. Can you all hear me okay? Right, so I want to spend a bit of time looking back on our previous year, and then, as Andy has said, sharing with you some of the highlights of our strategy. And I hope that at the end of the session, you will then contribute to our strategy through the work you do on your respective tables. But there will also be an opportunity to contribute, if you so wish, through an online system that we've got in place. So I'm going to be doing this in two parts. The first part is sharing a video, which I hope captures the essence of what we've achieved in the last year. But as I always say, there's always so much more that can be done. And then I'll just share a few videos that speak directly to our strategy. Let's go.
We improve lives by providing excellent mental health, learning disability, and community health services. We help people to get the best out of life. From our 4,500 members of staff working in Kent, South East London, and South West England, welcome.
तपाईलाई स्वागत छ.
Bem-vindo. Sanunku da Zua. Ayubon.
Swagatam. Funying.
Giayanu.
Swagadam.
Croeso.
Bienvenue.
Bienvenido. Benvenuta.
Marhaba.
Piteta.
Welcome.
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 We're a complex organization with colleagues caring for patients in often difficult circumstances. Like many parts of the NHS, we're facing unprecedented pressure on our services with huge increases in need in areas such as children's mental health services. We too are affected by national shortages of staff in key clinical areas, and our staff are still recovering from the impact of delivering care through the COVID pandemic, alongside managing the cost of living crisis. But Oxleas is a special place where people pull together to listen and take action to improve lives. Working together, we have put our strategy into action, improving Oxleas as a place to receive care, a place to work, and an organization to partner. One of the keys to our success is working in partnership. Involvement and co-design is not new to Oxleas. Over 25 years ago, we set up our first patient council to work together to develop services. Now, service user carer involvement runs through the organization, working in partnership to run services successfully. Our Council of Governors holds our board to account. Our Shadow User Carer Committee works alongside our board subcommittees. Our Involved Network has around 100 members working across our services in improvement projects, recruitment panels, etc. Our lived experience practitioners are part of our clinical teams. Thanks to our vision and investment, Queen Mary's Hospital in Sidcup is now a thriving community hub for health services. With a wide range of partners including King's College and Guy's and St. Thomas's, we bring specialist health services closer to local people, meaning that people have far less to travel for vital care such as chemotherapy and dialysis. We're a founding member of the South London Partnership, working together to improve mental health services for local people. This partnership has enabled local families receive specialist mental health care closer to home. For example, radically reducing the distance children need to travel for inpatient mental health care, and in some cases, reducing the need for this altogether by improving crisis support for families at home. We work in partnership across the system. We have a long history of managing our budgets well, and being in SOF 1 enables us to be a supportive financial partner within the integrated care system. Always seeking to get the best option for the community we serve, we're a partner that supports the system to deliver better care. We work closely with a wide range of local voluntary sector organizations to create flexible services that are part of local communities. Our mental health well-being hubs, run with Bridge and Mind, aim to help people at an earlier stage and reduce the need for secondary mental health services, while partnership with Charlton Athletic Community Trust has created a vibrant range of health support for a wide range of people, including marginalized young people and people with learning disabilities. And we work in partnership with our colleagues working across Oxleas. Building a fairer Oxleas team! Our innovative Building a Fairer Oxleas program is driven by our working group of staff across the organization. They have set the priorities and targets, and we have an open culture, truly listening to what our colleagues tell us and working with them to make improvements. This is demonstrated by our successful Shadow Executive being in its third year. Through the Shadow Executive, the executive team get feedback on proposals direct from people they will affect and make changes to plans in respect of this. As well as this, all members of staff can contact me direct through Ask Ify on our intranet. This is used regularly by colleagues to ask questions, make suggestions, or share comments on trust activities. This commitment to listening, to learn how to make lasting improvement, is what makes us different at Oxleas. We want to make long-term improvements by really understanding the issues people face and to work together to make improvements that are needed. Listening to learn is what unites how we approach life at Oxleas. Whether it is creating our strategy, quality management, involving people who use our services, or making Oxleas a great place to work through activities such as reducing investigation stress or building a fairer Oxleas. Together, we will come up with a solution to improve lives that lasts.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed watching that. So, like I said, the film was the first part, and now I just want to speak to our strategy. So often when I talk to people about our strategy in Oxleas, I say we are really interested in just two things. The first is about what we provide to our patients, and the second is about our staff. When it comes to our patients, there are two things that we prioritize: how we ensure that the majority of them who are in the community receive great care, and so we have great out-of-hospital care. And the second is how we ensure that people do not experience avoidable delays in their care. So let me speak about the zero delays concept, because often people have said, well, does that mean no wait? No, that's not what we're saying. We are saying that where we are very clear about how long people wait for services, either because the government has set waiting times or our teams or NICE have set waiting times, that we will avoid unnecessary delays over and above those waiting times. And of course, it's been challenging in the last year for reasons you would have picked up in the slide. Demand is high, but also we have staff shortages. But without that strategic goal, without paying attention to that strategic goal, my view is that we would most certainly not have been able to manage the referrals and the demands we've had to date. And we want to continue to do that. So part of the work we've done over the last 2 and a bit years is to have ways of monitoring how long people are waiting, and to do so in a consistent way. Through the work that we've done in getting to that point, we've made sure that where there are bits of the care pathway that introduce unnecessary waits, or that are lengthy or necessary in terms of the delivery of care, that those have been taken out so that we can streamline things. And the other thing we've been very keen to do is that whilst people are waiting to receive services, we've made sure that we provide enough information, and I think that there's a lot more that we can do. And it's the concept of waiting well. As I said earlier, the majority of people we look after are in the community, and therefore it is right that we do our absolute best to provide great care outside of hospital. And I've got 3 examples there of what we've done. For people with learning disabilities, we've worked with partners to ensure that they have the annual health check. In our mental health services, we announced setting up community wellbeing hubs run not just by Oxleas, but in partnership with the voluntary and care sector, as a way to really reach people, and these are based in the communities. And then in our community health services, we have the urgent community response that seeks to address needs of those referred to it within 2 hours. And I'm really pleased that we're doing a great job there. Next time. And then the other part of the strategy, of course, is for our staff, making Oxleas a great place to work. Now, at a challenging time like this across health and care, where there aren't enough staff, and of course there's competition for the few staff who are out there, we want to stand out as an organization that really, really values its people. And the benefits are fairly clear, that we'll be able to retain staff that we have, and then we'll be able to attract more staff. And so we've done this through our Building a Fairer Oxleas program, which you would have heard of in that film clip. And also improving staff well-being and making sure that staff feel that they can thrive in this organization and that they're supported to develop their careers. And the data does show that this is working. We're improving recruitment and retention. Staff are stating that their well-being is being looked after. And also, we know that we are one of the most inclusive organizations across the NHS. Next slide. There will be opportunities to contribute to our strategy through work you'll be doing on the tables, but also through the Smart Survey link that you see on the screen, which will be made available to you. And I wouldn't want to end without saying something about some of the successes in the last year. So some of our teams have received awards. Swaleside received the Health Service Journal Patient Safety Award 2023. Our forensic services at the Bracton was rated outstanding by the CQC. The work we've done in diversity and inclusion has received 2 awards, 2022 and 2023. And you would know that we were named as one of the best places to work in the Sunday Times Best Places to Work publication. We're keeping our fingers crossed, though, because we have been shortlisted for the Health Service Journal Award as the Trust of the Year. And we really do hope that our year will end quite positively by winning that award. And that's me. So I'll hand over to Azra, our finance director, and then we'll take questions at the end.
Okay, so we have to do this every single year, so you're going to get me for about 10-15 minutes talking about the finances now. Try not to fall asleep. So what we've got in this first slide, just remove this so I can move around a bit, is the movement between last year, which was 22-23, and the 21-22 position. And you can see the key one to focus on really is this section here, which is stating that we made a surplus last year of £3.3 million. That included about 800,000 from the sale of an asset, Blaine Grove, and then we made, I have to say, on our cash balances, quite a lot more interest received because we saw last year interest rates increasing. So that was over and above plan, which was set at break even. And then we also had a lower amount spent on depreciation. The remaining balance that gives us the reported position, which you may be struggling to see, but say £17.1 million surplus, all of these other 3 lines are all linked to the fact that every single year we need to do an assessment of the value of our fixed assets, which is our land, buildings. Usually it's the land and the buildings. They were reassessed and valued based on some detailed work that the Estates Department did across the entirety of our estate, and the outcome of that is really what these other adjustments are. They are technical in nature, so I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time going through them. Okay, so this looks complex, but it's trying to break down income. So it's moving from, on that side, the position in 21-22, and the top row is just showing what changed on income between 21-22 and 22-23. And we've got it ranked in regards to effectively what we got as the most material items. So you can see the first one is 13.3 for Southwest Prisons. So that was quite a key change for us. We had the Bristol cluster come online in October 22, and then the Dorset and Devon clusters came on in December 22. So you've got the part-year effect of bringing on those 2 bids and our expansion of our prison portfolio. You then had what we were given as central funding for inflation. So we've talked about the cost of living crisis. That inflation, which is driving that cost of living crisis, is also being experienced in healthcare. And we were given £11.9 million to be able to deal with all of those costs. Moving on then, we had the funding in terms of pay awards. I'm going to say basically most of the rest of these are in relation to effectively inflation, pay awards, those type of items. The main service that we had was the creation of funding for virtual wards, which is effectively where we have said, instead of having people come in to a hospital environment or coming into our services, we would be reaching out into the communities and trying to do that via phone calls and other mechanisms to be able to handle physical health needs for patients that required basically monitoring aspects. If we then move through, this is what we then spent money on, and it's done in totality. So it's not the movement between years, but how we've spent it. So you can see, where we had received it. So 48% of our funding came from South East London ICB. which were the old CCGs, all the places, so that would principally have been for us Bexley, Bromley and Greenwich. 41% came from NHS England, which is usually our specialised income. And for us, that was primarily all of our prisons income would have come directly from NHS England. And then the balance is around the fact that we are the lead for adult secure services across South London, and that is circa about £99 million. That was the other key area. And then you can see smaller amounts for other NHS organisations, and about 3% of the totality of our income came from local authorities. This then is doing exactly the same kind of journey, but looking at expenditure. So on expenditure, between the 2 years, you'll see that inflation was 18.3. Those that can remember the figures on the previous slide, that's 3 million higher than what we were actually funded for. So we had to manage that in year. The other one that you will have seen on the other slide where you've got the expenditure is the backdated pay award. And that, on the other slide, read 8.3 million. So there was about 300,000 that we had to find in order to be able to pay all of our members of staff the pay award, and that was not initially funded. The other areas are then just the expenditure movements, principally on South West, which matches income of 13.3, and the agency costs. Now, they are quite key because that is where we have got high levels of vacancies, and we have not been able to fill those posts substantively, and therefore have had to go out to agencies, which comes at quite a premium cost for the trust. Plus, it's individuals that may not be as au fait with the way that we do things in Oxleas. So it's an area that we do want to try and bring down by bringing in more substantive staff and by increasing our bank rates. Moving down onto the bottom line then, where did we spend the totality of that 452.1? So principally, the majority of our spend is always on staff. So that was 59% of our expenditure was spent on staff. And that would have included both substantive, people that are employed by the trust, bank and agency spend. 22% was healthcare contracts. So a lot of the prison services are us subcontracting with other providers. Also for the provider collaborative that I talked about, those are subcontracted to the other two London providers, South London providers of SLAM, South West London and St George's, but also a range of independent sector suppliers of those services. And then you can see a much smaller contingencies in terms of the other areas. So supplies at 3%, drugs at 3%, training at 1%, premises at 6%, and then the other is anything that was less than 1% of spend. Okay, so moving on to, this is a very technical slide that a lot of people will go, what on earth is this actually talking about? Is the statement of financial position, which in old money was the balance sheet, for those of you that are more au fait. And all this is trying to say is the previous slides talked about where do we get our income and how do we spend it? But this is the infrastructure in reality that we have got and how we are managing to pay our invoices and deal with where people owe us money is effectively what's covered on this slide. So you can see on the other side, you've got the 2 years, and I'm going to say land and buildings, you will see, which is this top line here, has increased quite significantly. But you'll also see that the liabilities, which is stuff that we owe to other people, has increased quite significantly between the 2 years. Now, about 35 million of that is all linked to the fact that we had to adopt a new methodology for accounting for all of our leased properties. So under something called the International Financial Reporting Standard 16, that all used to be dealt with under revenue, we now need to capitalise those leases, which is why we're seeing this figure go up. And then we need to account for the fact that in future years, we're going to have to carry on paying off whoever we've leased those properties to, which is why you're seeing that the liabilities of the debt figure has gone up. Of the rest of it, it's been broadly equal, I would say. And the top half of this is effectively our assets and liabilities, and then this is how it's been funded. I'm going to say it's kind of the equivalent of somebody having shares in a private company is probably the easiest way to think about that. Over here, we then have the capital investments that we made. Now, if we had talked about Queen Mary's Hospital, we invested £3.9 million into the infrastructure in those buildings. We spent £4 million on digital services. Now, that included things like computers, but it also included where we had developed our software systems that we use and our patient administration systems to make them fit for purpose and meet the needs of operational management and our clinicians to ensure that we could properly capture all of our activity. In terms of the estates side of things, we spent just under £2 million on health and safety and then £4.6 million on other estates assets, covering all of the other properties that we actually physically own. Okay, charitable funds is next. And this is basically, you're going to see the journey from the amber circle that you can see on that side to the blue circle here. So we ended the year with a balance in our charitable funds of £451,000. We'd received £21,000 worth of income. I'm not going to read them out because you can see them listed on the screen. Largest element of that was donations of £14,000. And then the pink elements are effectively where we spent £80,000 of the original starting balance to here. And that was split between other expenses of £15,000, which is effectively the costs of being able to run all of those services. £24,000 was invested in staff welfare, and £41,000 on patient and service user activity. Okay, and finally, it's just running through the risks that we're trying to manage as an organisation. Just checking, can everybody? Yeah, hopefully everybody can see. So I'm just going to run them through by number, but these would cover the financial aspects, but they've all got operational and clinical impacts as well. So starting off with number one, which was ability to meet our savings plans recurrently. So for 23-24, because these are live risks, we had to make £20.3 million worth of savings. So far, we've identified and made everything apart from £7.1 million of those as we stand today. If we fail to make those savings and they're recurrent, i.e. we're going to carry on making them year after year, and it's not just a one-off for this year, that becomes a problem for a future year. So that's probably, I would say, the biggest financial risk that we are carrying. Second one, and you've already heard me talk about this, is the ability to recruit and retain staff and manage our agency and bank spend for the reasons that I'd articulated earlier. We've got pockets where actually we're doing not too bad, but we have got other areas where we have got very, very high vacancy rates. And those vacancy rates are despite the fact that we have tried very hard to find temporary staff through either bank or agency to fill. Where we're not able to fill it through either one of those mechanisms, there is an impact on service. So that is very much our daily bread and butter that we are trying to do on a daily basis to make sure our services meet the needs of our service users and patients. Number three is the ability to reduce our reliance on independent sector beds. And that's principally our mental health beds that links into. Just to give some flavour of what that's looking like this year, we're just under £4 million of expenditure at this point in the year on private sector beds. That's expected to increase to about 8.8 by the end of the year, unless we can really change those expenditure patterns. So to give the service user impact of that, not all of those beds will be in our local boroughs. They may not even be in London. So it is about having that care closer to home. So this is, again, one of our key focuses operationally and clinically. The ability to increase capacity and operational resilience in emergency care. This is about effectively trying to reduce the amount of time that we've got patients sitting in EDs. We spend a lot of time working on that and on flow. It's kind of linked, I would say, quite strongly to number 3, which is also talking about making sure that we've got a bed available when a patient needs it. Number 5 is about delivery of the trust, she says, trying to read it from this angle, financial position in the context of the ICB. Now, we as a trust are on plan for 23-24. We'd said we were going to just broadly have our income cover our expenditure. At this point in the year, we've got a £2.5 million surplus because we sold an asset and we were able to get a profit on sale. However, our finances are not now just the trust finances. We're embedded in an integrated care board, which is all of the NHS organisations in South East London. And we are the only trust in South East London that is managing to meet that break-even position. And we are held to account collectively on those finances. So there is a risk that even though we've managed our finances and have managed to get them covered off, that we would be asked to contribute to others that are struggling to be able to match those figures. So that's the other risk. Inflation is an ongoing issue this year. You saw that last year there was £3 million that we had to try and find over and above funding. We're not seeing a particular abatement of inflation this year, so that could be an ongoing risk. And then finally, it's on capital. We used to be able to say, if we've got our own cash and we find a need for capital, that we could just simply invest in whatever capital we felt that we needed to invest in. We are now in a position where South East London ICB is given an allocation and we have to bid for any capital schemes that we've got. And that has to be done in the context of everybody else's need in South East London. So again, it's how we progress through that bidding process. We've been successful up to date. We have managed to obtain everything that we needed to. That has required some honing back that both Rachel and Alison have been heavily involved in. But broadly, we have managed to meet those needs, but that isn't necessarily the case going forward. And that's it from me.
Sorry. Well, thanks very much indeed, Azra, for that explanation of the finances. There'll be a test later to see if you're all concentrated on that. Now, well done. And thanks very much for the way you've managed us through a very, very challenging time. And as Azra said, we're the only ones in South East London managing to balance the books, which is a huge accolade, I think, to you and your team. Indeed, very, very difficult. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, thanks very much indeed. So now to look at the changes to the Board of Directors. I'm conscious of people behind me as well. Well, you know these things, only so right. Okay. Yemisi Gibbons left her role as a non-exec director. She's now the chair of Croydon Acute Hospital, which is a fair old challenge that she's taken on in that role. So we congratulate her on taking that one on. And Maniza Amir joined us as a non-exec director, brings an awful lot of talent to the board, and I'm really pleased with the way that the board is developing. And as I said at the beginning, it will continue to develop into the future. So changes to the board. I hope you can read all those out. I hope you can read them. I'm not going to read them all out. But thanks very much for those who stepped forward to be elected to the Council of Governors. I mean, our structure is really important as a foundation trust, that the Council of Governors hold the non-exec directors to account, and our job is to hold the exec directors to account. That's a very crude analysis. It's much more of a unitary approach than that. It's not just about, I say, how are you doing? But we're doing this together. But that essentially is the structure. So the role of the Council of Governors, both elected and appointed and staff, is a crucial part of the way that we are governed. And I'm personally very passionate about us remembering that role, because that brings the influence, as I say, of staff, of public, of partner, third sector organisations, local authorities, to oversee what we do and hold us as the non-exec directors to account for how we're discharging our function. So I'm really pleased to see colleagues come forward to stand for those roles, because it's very vital under the leadership of our lead governor, Sue Sauter, in all of that. Yes, please. So a newly appointed governor from Bridge, Hassan Fari. Bridge, great partners of ours, working very closely together with them, and jointly providing services in some places and contracting out on others, but very, very strong partners for us. And we're going to say goodbye to those who are stepping down. I mean, some terrific work from John Crowley and Janice Algo and Stacey Washington and Victor Benson. I don't know if any of those are here today. Any of those colleagues who are departing, we might bump into them at the next meetings throughout there, but really grateful for the amount of work that's gone in from themselves. Okay, I mean, that's a very brief run through the changes to the Council of Governors. And I'll now hand over to our lead governor, Sue Sauter. Thank you, Sue.
I hope you can hear me. Anyway, well, good morning. Thank you for listening to me for a few minutes. And I have to thank Joe for putting this presentation together, because I've only just come back from holidays and my brain's still a bit, anyway, but over to what I've been asked to talk about. Firstly, it's really good that we've got so many people as members to Oxleas. These are the numbers, public members, and we need to, all I'm going to say on that is that we need more. If you feel you would like to come as a public member, staff user, or a service user, please do. I think there's hacks out there today to put your names in and get more information, because it is the public and the members who support and help Oxleas to grow. That's what it's about. There's no organisation, certainly within the NHS, cannot have a strategy. And the strategy is put together with Oxleas. And we are now looking forward to changing our strategy over the next year or so. There's more work to come. But it was agreed, the one we're currently using in 22 to 24, by the Council of Governors, and that's where the governors help and work with the members as well. It's very important, the strategy, for people to see and hear what we're doing and what our aims are. Obviously, as a lead governor, I'm held to account, if you like, to make sure the rest of the governors do their work, but they also expect me to do mine. So it's a joint working team. But actually, we're there to make sure we work in the interest of the members and the public. And that's really our key point we need to say. Obviously, we need to support the Trust strategic aim to look at increasing service user, patient and care involvement, as you've heard so far from other speakers this morning. Because again, what we aim to do and I'll say the royal we, Oxleas, is to make sure what we're offering to our patients, our clients, is a good service and maintaining the standards. And we can't do that without information from the people who are part of our membership and the governors. You've already heard this morning from Andy and Azara about the integrated care system, and that comes with some challenges, I think. I think that's something we have to be quite realistic to, and that's where, as members, you can help us fight our corner sometimes. I'm not saying it's a fight, it's not fisticuffed, but we have to be able to stand our ground and to get improve Oxleas. But actually, the whole putting the strategy together, the three main aims are those below. We need more recruits. That's the pleas of today at these membership meetings we're doing across the 3 boroughs to recruit people. To actually communicate with you so you hear and understand what we're doing, hopefully. Again, the royal we, everyone. But actually to engage and involve people, because again, we can't move forward as an organisation without your help and support. And that's where everyone's voice comes in. And that's really a really key point. Next. So, touch on it. Okay, fine. There are various events. If you look on the Oxleas website, you'll see them publicised as well. Various events held across the areas. And you have the opportunity as members to come. And they can be proved very interesting. As an ex-NHS employee of many years, and knowing about Oxleas, I have learned an awful lot sometimes just going to these events, because speaking to various people about the teams and what they're doing. I learned an awful lot. One they did last year in Hall Place. I spoke to the care team that go in and visit people who are discharged from hospital and what packages of care they can have for a short period of time. And that was something really interesting. I found that was very, very keen. So if you get an opportunity to go to any of these events, please do. And there's community events. There's always an opportunity. I'm sure somebody come knocking on your door or say, what would you like to do? Well, there's certain things I will do. One of them is not running, so that's okay. So I will never be there doing any running, but I'll certainly go to any events that I can. And it's about involving the community, and that's what that's about here today as well. Getting you involved and spreading the word. Okay. The links. Obviously, it's not just working internally. We need to look externally as well. So it's actually linking with local schools and colleges, and that's, you've already heard about how that's happening. So if any of you have any links with colleges and schools, let us know, because there might be something we can go and take to this school or college to inform them a bit more about what we do, and again, get members. And obviously the discussions. There are various opportunities that you can go to have your say something, and discuss things with our social care partners and the community organisations. Again, it's spreading the word. What can we do to help our local public? What can we do to support you? And what do you think Oxleas could be doing better perhaps sometime? Because there's always room for improvement. We can never say we're totally 100% good, because there's always room for improvement. If you remember your old school reports, some improvement needed or something like that. So that's something I firmly believe it. If you're 100% good, we must be missing out on something, or somebody's not telling the truth. So it's always room for improvement and taking that forward. And that's, as a governor, I firmly believe, along with the rest of the governors, that's what we're here for, to help the service move forward and improve and get the public involved. There's lots of opportunities to see things if you have access to the web. Oxleas have got publications on the web. You might get stuff sometimes through the door, but mainly it's on the web these days. And that really gives you an opportunity also to give your feedback. If you don't want to speak publicly, there's a way to put your comments and stuff on the web. And most people I say 99% of the population will use the web and the internet. There's few that don't like using it, and I understand that. I don't like using it, but I have to, no options. So I have my moments. Technology is not my favourite thing, but I've learned over the years that that's the only way to get on. So there's an opportunity for everyone at all levels, right across the board, to actually have their say. And as it says here, we'd love to hear from you. It's time for you to think about what we can do, our future, your future, and it's about how you can help plan the future as Oxleas and for you as the people who are members of it. And there's always surveys and questionnaires that you can add to. It's about a two-way discussion. Your input helps Oxleas to move forward, and as you heard from Iffy earlier on, helps some of us to get the awards that are awarded, because without people giving us ideas and moving forward, those awards wouldn't happen. And it's down to the staff, the members who help the people that we're working for. I think that's probably a bit quicker than you gave me before, but I don't think that's it, is it? Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks for all your support throughout my time as chair here as well. Now, a chance here to ask some questions, particularly of the executive, because they know all the answers. Later on, we'll have a strategy session. So if it's more about the strategy, there's a chance to contribute there. Just one note, if I may. every now and again we get someone who might ask a question about personal treatment, which is obviously something which is a bit confidential, which is not suitable to be discussed in a public forum. So, right, over to our first question, please.
I'm Dr. Soong, lead consultant in cash and community gynae. My question to Sue. Sue, I'm just wondering, what is the strategy for underserved population, or in olden days, we call the hard-to-reach population? They might not be affiliated to any organization or any community, which is very common in Southeast London, transient and needy population. How could we get there, and what is our strategy in Oxleas? Thank you.
I wonder if we might pick that up from someone from the exec. Can they pick that up? I would have thought so. Who from the exec, so they come forward on that?
So I have to say that's one of the key discussions we're going to have at the table discussions, because I think we only know what we know. We've been trying to access and reach out to those hard-to-reach communities. And we say hard-to-reach, but actually it's our job as an organisation to do the in-reach. And part of this is about knowing whereabouts do they gather, whereabouts do we need to go out to actually gain what their thoughts are. And I think the transient community is an interesting one, because by their very nature, they may only be here for a short while before they're moving on. So we would hope to pick up some of that in the table discussions that we're going to have to really delve down in the communities we're serving in this borough. Whereabouts do we need to actually have a presence? Where would people appreciate having the interaction with Oxleas? Because we do definitely want to listen to what those communities have to say, and we want to hear, why are you not feeling that you can access the services? What do we need to do to reach out and make them more accessible for you? And I think it's really about paring it down to each one of those communities you identified to say, what is it that they need from us?
Well, no, Nazra, thank you.
Hello, thanks. I'm Stuart Robotham. I'm the Director for Adult Social Care for London Borough of Bexley, also the Place Executive Lead for the ICB in Bexley. So a couple of things. Just on that last point, I'd certainly, Oxleas already are part of a local care partnership, Bexley Wellbeing Partnership, and our in-reach is principally through our community champions as a partnership. So I think in terms of reaching those groups, we already have some real success through working in partnership, and I'd encourage Oxleas to continue doing that. My question really is about the integrated care system, and it came up a couple of times in the discussion there. Wasn't very clear where Oxleas stand in terms of whether integrated care systems represent a threat to what is clearly a very successful organisation, or whether there's a kind of full throttle, yes, we should be doing much more in terms of an integrated care system because that gets better outcomes. So just perhaps teasing out where Oxleas stand in terms of integrated care and how it works for them.
Thanks, Stuart. I'll ask you to come in, if you'd come in a moment. Clearly not a threat. I mean, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a new system, new structure. We're still settling in many respects. There are, and you know from the work that you do, that the interests of the local authorities, the interests of the acutes, and of the mental health and community trusts. And we're all in this together. But by the very nature of things, we do look at things through slightly different lenses. Quite clearly, from yourself, Stuart, from a Bexley lens, and we're obviously working with Greenwich and we're working with Bromley, and the acutes will see it from the challenges that they've got. They're under huge pressure for all the numbers coming through the doors of ED every day, the pressures they've got on elective care, the pressures that we have dealing with a real increase in numbers and complexity across all of our services, and a real stress on trying to recruit the right number of people to come in and deal with those pressures. So we're all looking at that together. But there's no doubt about it. There are tensions. You know that yourself from the meetings that we go to. There are tensions. And it's not about being excessively sort of isolationist. It's not that at all. But we quite clearly are charged by yourselves, by our Council of Governors, by our public to do what we are commissioned to do, and we want to do that. Clearly, we work well with our partners. You only go look at Queen Mary's. as a stunning example of exceptional partnership across how many? I always get it wrong, but 14 different agencies are there, private and public, all working together. And we hope we might have more good news about that in the future as well. So I think we're good partners. You know, we're quite robust in our partnership arrangements. There's no doubt about that at all. We do believe in good governance. We do believe in balancing the books, as do local authorities, because you have no choice other than to balance the books. So I would say it's a healthy relationship, but it's a frank relationship. You know, it's one that we have good discussions, but we are in South East London ICS. We are full partners of that, and we absolutely intend to play a vigorous part in that. And Iffy, please.
Need I say more, Stuart? So just reflecting on your question, I don't think anyone can doubt our commitment to the ICS. There's no question about that. And as Andy has said, there are tensions, but sometimes I say tensions are good, right? So even if you think about the services we provide, we cannot provide those services in isolation. We've got to work across, be it community, be it mental health. Even when you think about the acutes, people who visit acutes, guess what? Live in homes in the community. And that's why we really have to be part and parcel of that. Our finances, pretty good. And I know finance is a problem across South East London, but to my mind, that's no reason for us to give away our money. It's got to be put to good use, where we can then see what the benefits will be going forward. I stand 100% behind the goals that are set for ICSs in equity, and everything we need to do in terms of being part of the community and supporting the community and making sure our communities thrive. And that we really are that committed, but if we have to put up a fight to get the right thing done, bring it on. I'm always the first in line.
And Stuart, and thank you very much for all your contribution you've made to everything locally, but across the ICS as well. We're very grateful for that. But, any further questions from anyone at all? Anything else? If not, well, thank you so much.